win.
Go.
Hey everybody, Dave Jensen here. It is Tuesday, May 14th. I'm here in the Pacific Ocean in Huntington Beach, California, also known as Surf City, USA. But we're not here to surf today. We are here to ride. Today is the beginning of the Dream Big Tour, my 2,500-mile ride across the continental United States. I'd like to invite you to join me for the journey. For the sights, the sounds, the ups, the downs, and hopefully after 15 days, I'll be standing in the Atlantic Ocean, and we can all celebrate together. Not just the completion of a ride, but the establishment of the Dream Big Scholarship, which is the ultimate goal of this crazy adventure. So with that, this is Dave Jensen signing off. It's time to go. Well, I'm starting to think my 2,500-mile ride may be closer to 3,000 miles if I keep making errors like this. I seem to have overshot this bridge. It takes me across the Santa Ana River to Highway 91 where I'll get on a frontage road. Continue to make my way out of the LA area. A couple extra miles, no big deal. Back in action. Well, officially left the trail behind and now I'm on a frontage road. Making my first real climb of the day. Breathing's picked up. Kind of feels good though to get that climb in. Get it out of the way. All right. If you would have told me 6 months ago I'd be riding roads like this across America, I would have laughed at you. I hope you're seeing this Fergus Falls. This is just breathtaking. It's worth every pedal stroke. Lungs are burning a bit. I've been climbing for about 6 minutes now on Jackrabbit Trail. This hill still hasn't lit up, but boy, definitely worth the views. Oh my gosh, did you hear that? That is the sound of a tire losing all of its air pressure. Oh well.
I tell you what, getting on the interstate for the first time was awfully nerve-wracking, entering with the semis. It wasn't too far into the ride along Interstate 10 that I actually got into a 10-mile climb with a 6-degree incline. Well, if I was sore and tired waking up day 2, I was super sore and tired waking up day 3 in Quartzsite. It was going to be another day of riding the Interstate 10 to Phoenix. I had no idea what I was in store for setting out that morning. Literally every 20 miles I found myself with a flat tire. Because come to find out, along the interstate there are little metal wires from broken down truck tires that embed themselves into your bike tires and ultimately give you a flat. So literally every 15 or 20 miles I was having to continually replace tubes. And it was so discouraging, so tiring, and it was so hot that I only ended up making it about 85 miles that day to Tonopah, Arizona. Crossing it just before dusk. It was a beautiful night. There was nobody on the highway. It was one of those moments that cross-country cyclists truly dream of. Right in the center, just enjoying every minute of it as I rolled into Lordsburg, New Mexico at the end of day 5 there. So with that, day 6 completed, 750 miles down. I'm embarking on probably the most challenging day tomorrow. It's going to be 185 miles to Artesia, New Mexico. It's going to be fairly hilly.
Day 7 was an adventure day, to say the least. I started out leaving Las Cruces at about 3,000 feet of altitude. I literally started out by riding gravel with this giant mountain in front of me. Let me tell you, it was incredibly intimidating. The descent was extremely thrilling. Ended up on flat land for another 35-40 miles or so to Alamo Gordo, where I began the true 4,000-foot climb all the way up to Cloudcroft. 17 miles of non-stop climbing, the most intense ride of my life. Once I reached the plains, I continued eastward to Artesia, New Mexico, which really began a new phase of the trip. I was in oil territory now, and so it was endless roads of oil trucks and oil tankers and machinery and just the smell of oil in the air, the smell of money to some, but kind of a stench to myself. Day 10. This was sort of a breaking point for myself. Venturing out day 10 from Snyder, that was when the winds really began to pick up, the western Texan winds that I'd heard so much about, and unfortunately they were not in my favor this time around. And after 100 miles of brutal headwinds, I finally decided to call it a day in Breckenridge, Texas. Although we'd made arrangements to stay in Weatherford, I just couldn't go any further. My body was broken, I was tired, it was so discouraging. So Aaron picked me up, brought me to Weatherford, only to get up at 4:30 that next day to be brought back to Breckenridge to begin day 11. Day 10 and 11 really killed me, but day 12 was a breakthrough. It was busy, congested city riding at times it was rural farm fields, at times, I kid you not, it was riding through mud, carrying my bike across train tracks and through swamps. After the experience I'd had, when I'd reach a road that was closed and I knew there was a road a mile or so on the other side, I didn't turn around and backtrack. I just pressed on. So as you can see from the looks of that bike, I got quite muddy today, but it was an adventure. It was a ton of fun, and it was just what I needed coming off of that awfully discouraging day 10 and 11 through the western plains of Texas, which just about killed me with those headwinds. So I've got a little mud on the tires, a little mud on my brakes, but I tell you what, it was a blast of a day. Getting through that giant Dallas-Fort Worth, Arlington area really brought new life back.
As if the first 12 days hadn't been challenging enough, a malfunctioning cell phone in Dallas brought a whole new challenge to the third and final phase of the tour. Fortunately, day 13 was relatively uneventful, as I finally made my way out of the great state of Texas and into America's deep south, arriving in Shreveport, Louisiana, after dark on day 13. Day 14, I was introduced to the winding, narrow, deeply wooded roads that I would spend the remainder of the trip on. While these roads offered me protection from the easterly winds I would be facing, they didn't offer much protection from traffic, as road shoulder became harder and harder to come by. Even still, I arrived in Monroe, Louisiana, relatively unscathed, where we celebrated Aaron's birthday with a little local cuisine. Prior to the trip, I'd heard rumors of how unconducive southern roads were to biking. However, it wasn't until day 15 that I experienced this firsthand. After discovering that the only other road crossing the Mississippi River was out of commission, I had no choice but to illegally jump on the interstate for what I thought would be a short jump over the river. It wasn't until after I'd committed to this decision that I discovered how naive I was. With little more than 10 inches of shoulder separating the roaring semis from the cement bridge wall, I found myself racing for my life over what had to be the widest part of the Mississippi River. As if that wasn't bad enough, I was having to lunge my bike into the air every 60 feet to clear giant drains that would have easily swallowed my bike whole. Fortunately, my many years of mountain biking experience and prayers of many people brought me safely to the other side. I think it goes without saying that I was more than relieved when I finally pulled into Brandon, Mississippi that night. Fortunately, day 16 was much more relaxed as I left Brandon in pursuit of Alabama. Even the thunderstorm that forced me to take cover in a childcare center didn't faze me after the traumatizing experience I'd had the day before. Finally, after the storm clouds cleared, I made my way over the border and came to rest in Demopolis, Alabama for the night. Having managed 5 days without a cell phone, I must have grown a little overconfident as I made my way through Montgomery, Alabama on day 17. A little navigational error and some bad directions from a local sent me 20 miles off course, causing me to fall a little short of my destination that night. With no way to contact Aaron and now deep into rural Alabama, I sat for 2.5 hours under the only lit intersection I could find. Finally, about 10 p.m., I was able to flag down a passerby who let me use his cell phone to notify Aaron of my location. Having fallen short of my destination for the third time of the tour, Aaron and I had to get up at 4:30 on day 18 in Eufaula, Alabama, just so I could be shuttled back to that lonely intersection I had spent several hours at the night before. Despite making great time back to Eufaula, the additional 60 miles I had to put in that morning meant I wasn't going to make it as far that afternoon, which would inevitably make for a very, very long sprint to the ocean that next day. I ended day 18 in Albany, Georgia, which meant I was still over 180 miles from Jekyll Island. While I would normally zonk out immediately as soon as my head hit the pillow, I laid awake in bed that night, not knowing if I had it in me to make the full 180 miles the next day. Considering this would arguably be the most challenging ride of the tour, I considered breaking it into 2 days. But then, I remembered all the people back home pulling for me, and I decided at that moment that I would go for it.
Man,
I seriously would not go on if this wasn't the last day. I'd definitely stop here for the night. Done my usual mileage of 130 miles from far side Albany, Georgia to here in Waycross, Georgia. That ocean's just 60 miles away, and well, every single part of me wants so badly to stop. My hands, my arms, my legs, my feet. The most important part of me is telling me to keep going, and that's my heart. So I'm gonna press on. For me and for Aaron, for everyone back home, for the one who gave me the will and the desire to do this in the first place. So while you could not pay me enough money to bike another mile, I'm gonna bike 65 more for this dream. So with that, let's finish this today. Let's do it.